us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. The Dick Barr Group, your property goals.
Film part of that, and it's going to go on Instagram here in just a few minutes.
WRLR 98.3 FM LP, Round Lake Beach, Illinois.
Strong communities are the breeding grounds for strong real estate markets. Welcome to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr, where Dick unlocks your doors to everything happening in the community and tells you how you can use that to your real estate advantage. And now, here's your host, Dick Barr.
Okay, welcome back, Northwest Lake County. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, here this week with Sly Marinca of the Cross Country Mortgage Team with Sly Marinca. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. I don't got you. I don't hear you. See? What are you on? Oh, that's why. Go ahead.
Number 4.
Nope, I don't have you. Why don't you switch over to number 6? Let's see.
Number 6.
Wait, go back to 4.
Number,
there we are. Yeah.
See, I got here late today. I got stuck on a call, and
it happens.
Yep, could not get here till a minute ago and didn't have time for mic check. So my bad, everybody. Hello, welcome again, everybody.
And not in the studio this week with us is Kristen Kaufman. Kristen Kaufman had some pressing duties to take care of, but we do have our featured guest, our second time on the show, and we've got Matt Menoni from Apex Landscaping. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
It's our pleasure to have you back, especially this time of year because we're about to enter the cold, bleak, dreary real estate photo season. So you're going to give us some tips on how we can brighten up our curb appeal for the winter, right?
Absolutely. There's a few steps you can take in your fall cleanup practices to help keep that yard looking good and keeping those real estate photos looking even better.
Great. I'm gonna, Matt, I'm gonna ask you to jump over to mic 7 because I think that's going to be a more comfortable sitting position for you. And then you build it nice and close there. Go ahead.
It's all about the comfort in
studio.
studio.
Give me 1 second. There you go. Now do it again.
It's all about the comfort being in studio, isn't it, Dick?
It really is. Especially when you got to fill 2 hours. You got to be comfortable. You don't want to walk away with a bad back. So what are you guys been doing this week? The weather's just started. I mean, we go from 83 degrees on Monday, but now it's not terrible, but there's clearly the fall's in the air.
Very comfortable. I love it. I love the change. I love not having to turn on my heat or my AC at night. Just kind of letting, whatever the temperature is, it is. It's not cold yet, but it's not hot. I love it.
How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful outside right now, getting out with the family, walking around, and also doing some of those fall projects and decorating for for the upcoming Halloween and Thanksgiving decor. So
Yeah, is that a big part of your guys' business? You actually go out and you do holiday decorations?
we do some holiday decor, corn stalks, pumpkins, gourds, that type of thing. It's not only for Halloween, but also for Thanksgiving. Really brightens up entrances to communities and homes. You know, it is, as we're getting into that winter, it's like, oh, here we go. But putting out some mums and some pumpkins and so forth really brightens things up and makes it a little bit more enjoyable to come home.
I gotta say that the kind of fall decor is one of my favorites because it's kind of cool. You don't have a more pretty time of year with different colors. But you know what I've been seeing lately, and I don't think I've ever noticed this in the past. I've got a lot of friends who are photographers, and I see them posting their kind of fall photographs.
Yeah.
And in my business, I like vibrant. Because vibrant is good. It pops on that screen, and I'm seeing the kind of, I don't know if this is a new style or a style that's been around for a while. It's very kind of muted. Is the look. It's got a very muted look to it. It's cool. It's got a nice artistic feel to it, but it kind of, I got that cognitive dissonance in my head when I see it because I'm used to getting that pop. Those bright greens, the bright reds. They really kind of, as far as I'm concerned, they just show much better when we're marketing a house, obviously. To stand out.
Absolutely, and if you jump on our YouTube channel, there's some tips and tricks for fall decor and decorating. You talk about the pop on the houses, Dick. A lot of homes now are in those grays and whites and black scales. You know, just putting out some bright yellow burgundy mums along with the bale of straw is really going to make those real estate pictures pop, add color, almost where it looks like it's photoshopped because there's so much wow coming off those pictures you take.
Yeah.
So I'd like you, Matt. I'd like you. Do you have photos?
We do.
I'd like you to send them to me because I kind of get an idea. Because as we, one of the things that we do to help with that kind of winter dreariness for curb appeal is we go out there in the summer and early fall, and we do our exterior photography. So people who know they're going to be selling sometime between November and let's say probably late April, May, May. We say get your photos now so we have that color. But if you've got some ideas that we can show to clients and say, hey, if you were to just do this, and this now, and will that typically last through the winter, or is that really just seasonal for kind of the fall?
It's very seasonal for the fall. You will get about a month and a half out of the color. But the nice thing is you're going into, if you've got a client that's looking to sell, we're talking about it now, is it's not a high expense. You had 10, 15 mums to the front of their house, it's going to add a huge pop to it. Because the colors are so vibrant and bright. And they stand out, as you said, everything's starting to get kind of dreary and drab. Those are going to stand out so much better against everything else that's going on in their yard.
What's the best time to plant those mums? Are we already past it?
Towards the tail end of it.
We are, okay.
And mums, a lot of people do try to plant them. They are marginally hardy in our area. So you're going to see them coming out of the garden center just looking full, big, beautiful, and lush. People do plant them in the ground, and the next year they say, oh, they didn't come up, or they got tall and thin. So the success rate of them doing well year over year depends highly on the location, the soil, and then also if they're being tended to through the season. With mums, we do recommend right around 4th of July they get cut back, which people start going, I don't want to cut it back. They're finally growing nice. But that thickens them up and helps the stems to be a lot stiffer and sturdier.
So I didn't know mums were perennial.
Yeah. This is new to me.
They are, and that's why I say they're marginally hardy.
For us idiots, what does that mean?
So in some locations, they'll live and survive, and they'll be a perennial coming back every year. In some areas, you'll plant them, and you'll say, why didn't it come back? And I always tell people, go with the 50-50 rate. You see sometimes people plant them in these mums year after year just flourishing, and they don't have a green thumb. Then you've got the gardener who tries so hard, and they plant a mum, and they work at it. They can never get them to come back. So they're very finicky with where they're at, where they're planted, and require a little bit more care than just your run-of-the-mill daylilies and so forth that you set it and forget it.
And even keeping them alive when you buy them. We buy them every year and put them on our front porch, and I don't think we're watering them enough because they end up, but we still cut the flowers off and it looks like a nice bush, but they just don't live.
Yeah, a lot of water with them because a lot of times they're planted in smaller squat pots now.
Yep.
And that's so they can plant more in the greenhouses, space, and then cost of soil. So they do dry out a lot quicker. So if you can take those out of the little pots they come in, put them in a larger pot, that'll give them more volume to hold water and last longer.
Understood.
Okay, we're going to go a deep dive into this on the second hour when we're going to talk all about landscaping and ways you can not just kind of just for the season, but also ways that you can kind of design your landscape looking forward. How do you take your current yard and kind of over the next 10 years build it out into kind of the dream of the neighborhood. We'll get more into that, and I know you had some great ideas last time you were here, Matt, so looking forward to hearing some of the, not just the winter stuff and the fall stuff, but kind of the long-term stuff, and put people on a program for making their yards look fantastic. And I'll say there's no question, when buyers are shopping in a neighborhood, with the more landscaping the entire neighborhood has, the more likely it is to get big bucks for all the houses in the neighborhood. So it has this huge uplifting effect. It's kind of a rising tides raises all home
Absolutely.
values.
What's going to stop the car driving by?
Exactly. As opposed to, look at all the dandelions. Let's get out of here. Next neighborhood, please. And we'll talk about that too, because I know that's a controversial topic with dandelions. I know there's some pure naturalists that says, no, the dandelions are good. But I don't know. They just don't help sell houses. That's for sure.
No, they do not.
Okay, so we got a little bit of a slow start getting up here, and it's as Sly will attest, the energy is always just a little bit different when Kristen's not here. But we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
gonna do it. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna nail it.
We'll miss her terribly, but yes, we are going to do it today.
Absolutely. But we're gonna get right started with Dick's Market Minute.
Stay on top of the market with Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Okay, welcome back, Northwest Lake County. I'm Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County. We're going to do a deep dive into what's happening in the market. There's a few surprises happening, but not many surprises. As I was talking to Sly before the show started, he was kind of filling me on some numbers. We are at a 15-year low on home sales, with September dropping about 14% year over year. But we're still seeing pockets where things are just flying. So we're going to go over what's sitting on the market, what's not sitting on the market, what's selling, what's not. And we're going to hit the northwest region of Lake County, and then we're going to break it down community by community to give you everything you need to know, whether you're looking to buy, looking to sell, whether you should stay on the sidelines or whether you should dive right in. But starting out with the entire region of Northwest Lake County, we're sitting on 231 active properties as we speak. 50 new listings this week, the same as last week where there was 53. 38 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, about the same as the prior 7. 175 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days in Northwest Lake County. Slight tick up from last month where there was 163. Days on market average, only 25 days, 1.3 month supply of inventory, $116,000 was the lowest priced home sold, with a high of $900,000, and that highest active still sitting out there like a champ at $4.9 million. Median home sale price in the region, $347,500. Now let's break it apart and head over to Antioch, where they're sitting on 45 active properties, no longer the highest. Lindenhurst Lake Villa takes that hot spot this week. In Antioch, 11 new listings this week, up from 9 the prior. 6 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days. Slight correction from last week's 8. 27 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, up from 23 in the prior 30. 18 days on market is the Antioch average. Congratulations, Sly. You have the fastest market time in the region this week. Month supply of inventory is 1.7, which kind of, I guess it's not mutually exclusive, is the highest month supply in the region. So you have the fastest market time, but also the highest month supply. Yeah. And I think that's because of your high inventory. Mm-hmm. Lowest priced home sold in Antioch was $145,000, high of $739,000. Highest active is $2.3 million, and the median sales price in Antioch, $410,000. Don't tell the township assessor. Now on over to Vaulo, Fox Lake, and Ingleside, where they're sitting on 29 active properties. They're tied for the lowest this week with the Round Lake area. 7 homes have entered the market this week. Big jump from last week where there was 3. 5 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, about the same as last week's 6. 20 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, slight drop from the 26 in the prior month. 36 days on market is the average in the Volo area, and that's the highest in the region this week. 1.5 month supply of inventory. $132,000 is the lowest priced home sold with a high of $900,000, highest active price of $1.69 million, and a median sales price of $332,000. Now on over to Grays Lake, Gages Lake, Haynesville, Third Lake, and Wildwood, where they're sitting on 41 active properties. 8 new listings this week, tied for last week's 8. 8 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, double last week's 4. 32 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days. Slight drop from the 36 in the prior month. And the days on market average is 25, with a 1.3 month supply of inventory, matching the region's average. $175,000 was the lowest priced home sold. $590,000 was the high. $1.19 million was the highest currently active, and a $384,000 median sales price. Now on over to Gurnee, Wadsworth, Old Mill Creek, where 40 homes are sitting on the market. 8 new listings this week, about the same as the 10 last week. 4 homes under contract in the past 7 days. Big drop from last week's 10. 31 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, and that is a tie of last month's, also 31. 26 days on market is the average market time, with a 1.3 month supply of inventory. Seeing a pattern there, a lot of 1.3s. $260,000 is the lowest priced home sold. And that is the highest low, if that makes sense. $780,000 is the highest priced home sold, and $4.9 million is the highest active. Now on over to my backyard at Lindenhurst Lake Villa, where we're sitting on 47 active properties, highest in the region. 9 new listings this week, down from 13 last week. 8 properties have gone under contract in the past 7 days, up from 5 in the prior 7. 31 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, slight tick up from the 24 in the prior month. 27 days on market is the average market time, with a 1.5 month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold was $152,000, with a high of $565,000. $4.5 million, highest active property on the market right now. That's high for Lindenhurst.
Yeah,
but we got some really cool lakes out there and some really nice properties. $318,000 is the median. Now to finish off with the Round Lake area, where they're sitting on the lowest inventory, tied with Volo, of 29 active properties. 9 new listings this week, down from 10 in the prior week. 7 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, down from 8 in the prior. 34 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, highest in the region. 23 was the last month number. Days on market average is only 23 days, and the lowest month supply of inventory in the region at less than a month at 0.9. Lowest priced home sold, $116,000, with high of $499,000, and the highest active is for also $499,000. $265,000 is the median, which is the lowest in the region. Okay, what did I say that surprised you, Sly? Anything?
Well, it definitely seems like, I remember just a few months ago, there was less than 1 month supply almost across our region.
Yep.
And now I'm hearing 1.3 months, 1.5 months, which is still nowhere near where it needs to be for it to actually be a buyer's market, obviously. But it's interesting that that's kind of starting to happen a little bit, where homes are sitting a little bit longer. But, it's still a great time to sell. There's still demand, and we're seeing multiple offers. It's gotten a little bit better, but, I guess it really depends a lot on the price range. And I think we're, nationwide, I'm reading right now that there is a 4.3 month supply of homes nationwide. So the fact that we're 1.5 months is still showing that there's a lot of demand here. We're kind of isolated in our area from these wild swings like we see in, kind of like the Floridas and the Arizonas and the so we're isolated from that. So inventory is increasing, but we're not anywhere near,
buyers.
Getting there to where it's a buyer's market and you could pick and choose and you could, come in and lowball and things like that. It's just not there.
It's funny. A lot of people don't realize that the true definition of a buyer's market is 6 months market time, right? But that just seems so absurd to us. Yeah. 6 months on the market being, what it would take to enter a buyer's market. But, the reality is that there are mini pockets, right? We do have, a couple of weeks span where we might have buyer market mentality.
Yep.
Where there's just a bunch of new listings, not a ton of buyers absorbing the inventory, and sellers get a little anxious. So like, how come,
Right.
2 weeks ago my neighbor sold and it sold in 3 days? Why are we on the market 4 days? And so we go through those pockets. And, as you mentioned, we're starting to see a little bit of slowdown, 14% reduction year over year of new contracts. But yet we just popped those, 3 new listings in Waukegan this week.
Yeah.
We had 80 showings.
Right.
80 showings, a couple of dozen offers, multiple competings,
Yeah.
and way over asking.
I think the statistics nationally don't speak for what we see here. Again, I think we're insulated from a lot of the wild swings that you see, from property value appreciation to length of time on market to the amount of listings. I mean, inventory is still tight here. People are still sitting. A lot of people that would normally be selling are still sitting on super low interest rates, and they don't want to get rid of that. So kind of what we've been talking about for a while, and that's impacting our inventory. There's simply not enough homes for sale in our area. That's not necessarily the case across the country.
Right. And what have you heard? Where are the big pockets where the inventory is growing nationally?
Well, I mean, it's pockets that, where you have huge growth and huge property value increases in a short amount of time, and that slows down. You look at Florida. I mean, inventory, especially after the hurricanes and after the weather events we had this year, and some of those people that moved down there, and thought, everything's going to be hunky dory. Now your insurance costs are doubling and tripling. We had, our insurance guy was in here telling us a couple weeks ago about, the insurance premium increases.
Right. And that's affected home affordability in a major way.
Absolutely. So, I think on the coasts, you see a lot of that. Here in the Midwest, where and even during the crash we saw in 08, 9, and 10, yeah, we did see property values decrease, but it didn't get as bad as it did in a lot of those areas where they see super huge growth and then super big crashes. Here it's kind of, up and down, but not as much, it seems like.
I want to, speaking of home affordability, and since we've got you here, Sly, because you're going to be able to help me with these numbers a little bit.
Sure.
Because I have a rough grasp, but I also know that the fluctuations kind of screw with my math. We used to always, when the rates were low, we figured, every $10,000 in reduction in purchase price relate to about $40 a month.
Yep.
That's when rates were low.
Yeah, $4 per thousand.
4 per thousand,
Yep.
but 10,000 is 40, right?
Yep, correct.
But now it's closer back to about $60
between $6
right?
and $7 per thousand. Yep.
Yep. And since we have an election coming up, and there's some tax information coming up, or people are getting ready to vote for some tax increases in multiple communities throughout the area. I wanted to talk about that, what that means for how taxes affect the value of your home and the equity in your home. Because you know as well as I do, most people will buy a home that they can afford, right?
Right.
How many times are people at the close to the top range of what they can afford officially as a debt-to-income ratio? How often, what percentage would you say people are buying close to the top of what they can afford?
I would say probably about 25% of my borrowers are at the very tippy top of what they can afford.
Okay.
I would still say most of our borrowers are not looking to spend the max they can afford. I think people are still, because they know everything else costs so much, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I would say probably 1 out of every 4 is like, all right, if I qualify for 300, I'm looking at $300,000 houses.
Okay, so of those people who qualify for 300 at the max, that 1 in 4, 25% of them are at the max. If anything goes up, it changes their affordability, their ability to buy that house.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now they have to cut somewhere else or...
Sure. So now on that next tranche of people, who are the people who don't want to max out.
Yep.
Let's say, so if 25% of the people are willing to go up to max, what percent want to stay up, in that 50% and higher range?
Yeah, I would say most of them are that.
Okay.
The remaining, very, 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 most of them are going to say, all right, if I could afford a $4,000 a month mortgage, I'm really comfortable at $2,000 a month. Because remember, we go off of gross income. That's the part in me that's like, if your gross income is let's say, $8,000 a month. That's not what you're taking home. That's before taxes, before, Social Security, before everything. You're not taking that home. So if you go up to a 50% debt to income ratio on, $8,000 a month, I'm telling you all of your liabilities, including your mortgage, taxes, and insurance, car payment, credit card, whatever, can go up to $4,000 a month. But what about utilities? What about food? What about cell phone? What about, everything else? Yeah. So the fact that we use gross income, that scares a lot of people. When I tell them, I regularly have conversations with people that I tell them, well, you could technically, if you're, make, let's say $10,000 a month and you have $1,000 a month in bills, 50% of 10,000 is $5,000. I tell them you could afford a $4,000 a month mortgage. They're like, no, I can't.
Right.
There's no way I could afford that. How? I'm like, well, my job is to tell you, here's how we do the math. This is now
it's what do you think you can afford?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where we flip it. And I would say most borrowers are in that.
They can afford more, but they're smart and they kind of go for a little bit less, give themselves a little bit of leeway. Okay.
Correct, because they say, no, I can't. I can't really afford that much.
So we can then agree that if you use the definition of affordability, the individual's definition of affordability, both groups, your 25% and the remainder, where you say most are in, are at the max of their affordability level, right? Because if they don't want to go higher.
Correct.
Okay, because they say, no, I can't afford it because I want to keep it here.
Correct.
So if you think about property taxes in Illinois and you say, well, it's about, let's say $700, we're talking about a month. So for every $10,000, we're at $70 a month.
Yep.
Right? Okay, in payment. And if you extrapolate that over a year, 70 times 12 is $840, right?
Yep.
Okay. So for every $840 that they pay in taxes, the value of their home drops $10,000.
From the standpoint of affordability. Yeah. I could see that.
So, and let's just kind of round it up to 1,000. We're going to be a conservative approach here. So for every $1,000 that they spend in taxes, they're basically reducing the affordability of their house by $10,000. So in Illinois, especially Lake County, where it's easy to see, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, sometimes even $20,000. But let's say the $10,000, which is closer to the average. In this region, it's somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000 are the taxes.
Yep.
We use 10 as an average. We're talking about $100,000 in potential lost equity because of the enormity of our taxes.
Yeah, but taxes aren't free nowhere are taxes zero, and
they're never zero.
They're never zero in certain states, obviously. But then you also,
if you compare us to like, let's say Tennessee, it's easy. It would be $2,500 for what we would pay 10 for.
Correct.
So a quarter.
Correct. Yeah. So we are the highest tax county and the second highest tax state, as you always say.
Yeah.
But also the one thing that you got to remember here, though, is our income levels. People can still afford it. People, our income levels are some of the highest around in our county, and we have a lot of corporations in our backyard, and so I think we're, again, you got to look at the total big picture, because how are people still buying houses then? They still are.
They are, because the values are lower, because the purchase price is lower. So it's because of what we've done is we've traded off. We've traded off lower property values for higher taxes. If the taxes were lower, property values would be higher. And you can make two arguments there.
Sure.
You could say, well, that creates more affordable housing. I say no, you can't. Just because your purchase price is lower, you will always owe the tax, and the tax will always go up.
Right.
But ideally, your mortgage should never go up, and eventually it gets paid off.
Right.
So people who buy into areas where they have lower taxation, they eventually are relieved of their mortgage commitment, but they always owe the government.
Correct.
To own that house.
And case in point, look at just over the border in Wisconsin.
Exactly.
The taxes are, so like when my wife and I were buying a house back in 10 years ago in 2015, we wanted to go over the border, and we were looking at homes. There was some new construction, there was some non-new construction, and it was significantly higher than the comparable homes that we were looking at in Illinois because of that exact same reason. The taxes were $6,000 to $8,000 on the homes we were looking at, whereas in Wisconsin, whereas in Illinois, they were $10,000 to $14,000. And, the trade-off was, bigger mortgage, lower taxes, or slightly lower mortgage, bigger taxes. And obviously we chose, to stay in Antioch, in part because, we're closer to our families and things.
Yep.
But yeah, that's where you see that the most is I regularly pre-approve buyers that are like, all right, I'm going to look in Wisconsin and in Illinois. And it's interesting. It's very interesting to see that dynamic, and see what people tend to choose, the lower taxes. A lot of them, that are thinking like that are, I want my taxes lower, not really realizing that they're going to pay a little bit more for the house.
Correct. And I do want to caution people with that strategy, because what follows mass migration to an area? People with their old voting habits. So look at what's happening in Tennessee. We're starting to see.
Yeah.
Tennessee is starting, number one, their property values have soared. But following it, their taxes have also gone up.
Yeah.
Because people are coming from areas where it's too crowded here. I hate the taxes. I'm gonna leave here and go to Tennessee. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna vote for the same services increases that I voted at the last place that chased me away. And also, when they go there, but we want a library that's as good as the library we left. We want to make sure our schools are as funded as they were where I left. And that's what they start voting for. And then all of a sudden, boom, people who were kind of the trailblazers, the pioneers of the lower population areas where they had nice home values, low taxes, well, they'll benefit. The pioneers will benefit because they'll have huge increases in their equity, right? But then their taxes are going to follow, and then eventually they'll have to be pioneers somewhere else, and probably move further away from the urban areas, from the suburban areas.
And the schools does play a big role in that. We do a fair amount of loans for veterans that are moving into this area from out of state. And, a lot of times, especially obviously if they have kids and for resale values, if you start looking into that and you start looking at the school districts, the taxes do help with that, obviously, right? Like, the school grades in a lot of cases are going to be higher where the teachers are paid more and there's more money for students. So I get it, some of that, but it just seems like it's almost like it's too much now. These extra taxes, we're already paying enough, and people are saying, why more? And I know we talked about the, forest preserve coming up, and, a couple months ago was a library referendum and this and that. And it's just like, I think people have had it.
Right.
I really do.
We're going to take a real quick break. And Sam, if you're listening, this one's for you. I saw a note that you left for Mr. Graceman, and I don't know if you ever got a chance to play that song for you. So we're going to head out onto our break with the song you requested. Hope you're listening, and hope your granddaughter enjoys. Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Auction Service in Round Lake reminds you to raise your awareness of the importance of being proactive in the fight against cancer. Due to improvements in detection, treatment, and public awareness, deaths due to lung, colon, breast, and prostate cancers are being reduced. Cancer is a tough topic for people to confront, but if you take the time to be informed, you can greatly reduce your risk. This from Oganoff Auction Service in Round Lake, working to make our community even better. Remember, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
And welcome back. This is Dick Barr, your host on Lake County. Welcome back for our break. The tracker was doing its own little thing there. So you're back live in the studio. I'm here. Let me get you guys on mic. I'm here with the great Sly Marinca.
Hello, everybody.
And our special guest in the studio, Matt Menoni of Apex Landscaping. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And Sly was giving us some really, really scary news out there on our break, and I really can't wait to get started on the Mortgage Minute. So I'm gonna jump right into it. Sly, are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's
hear it.
Here is the Mortgage Minute with Sly Marinca and Cross Country Mortgage on Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So the Fed cut rates in September. We were all waiting patiently for that all summer, and they finally did it. And man, has it gone the other way ever since. The markets have just absolutely said, you know what, Fed, we don't believe you. We don't think you're going to cut rates any further. And so the national current 30-year fixed mortgage rate is back up to 6.92%. I think you remember a couple weeks ago it was 6.09%, so quite a big increase. And the 10-year treasuries the 10-year treasury yield is up to 4.22, up significantly again from the mid threes that we saw a few months ago. And really, it's the markets are calling the Fed's bluff. There was a policy error. They shouldn't have cut rates because inflation was still kind of creeping back in. The jobs numbers
But it was dropping.
It was dropping, but not where it needs to be for them to cut rates at a time when they're also claiming lowest unemployment ever and record jobs growth.
So that's got to make you think. Why would they do that? Why would they?
It's almost like something's coming up that they're trying to.
What could that be?
Yeah.
What's coming up in about 13 days?
You tell me, my friend. But yeah, the markets are the government's spending money like it's growing on trees. They printed $600 billion in just the last 2 months. The national debt is approaching $36 trillion, and our debt to GDP ratio is 124% for 2024. Too much spending, too much money, and the markets want more yield. Why are investors going to buy government debt, at 3.5% when they're printing money? And so I think the markets are revolting. And I don't remember a time. I read that there was one other time that this kind of happened, and then it calmed down. But I think with the election coming up, people are just kind of holding their breath and waiting to see what happens. And at some point, the debt's going to have to be addressed. And I don't know, whoever wins, is going to have to at some point, do that. And it's going to be very painful. Our economy's growing because of government spending. Let's face it, that's the main catalyst right now. And how long can that happen? How long will investors keep buying debt that is out of control? And that's not even talking on the consumer side. Where just last week we talked about the credit card debt is just, stifling. And so, a lot of people are spending more money on credit card interest, on top of everything else that's already inflated. It's not looking good, not looking too good for the economy. And a lot of indicators are, indicating that there is, a recession on the horizon if we're not already in one. You got to remember the way they look at the numbers is always backwards when it comes to recessions. So very interesting times. Mortgage rates are higher. With that said, though, they are still significantly lower than they were last year at this time.
Yep.
You got to remember, we were, pushing 8%. We're pushing 7% now, but it's still significantly higher or lower right now than it was a year ago at this time. So very interesting times indeed. It has put a damper on people that were, potentially refinance clients. I have a whole slew of people that reached out, when they saw the rates going down and, hey, we're looking for that 5% rate and we got to 6%, but a lot of them, have missed out and now we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, I think.
You know what it reminds me of? Did you ever play with day trading?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's fun, right?
Absolutely.
And you're watching that and you're looking and you're seeing that seeing that line go down. You're like, oh, as soon as it hits that line, as soon as that hits that line, and then just like it's a fraction from that line. You're like, are you getting ready to hit the mouse button, and then all of a sudden, boom, it shoots right back up, and your chance to buy it at that low number is gone forever.
Absolutely.
When you wait for that last penny, you know that hawk is going to come flying in and then scoop it up and fly away with it.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because in a past life, that's what I wanted to do. I went to college. I got a finance degree, and I was part of the .com bubble. I remember that. My dad had given me some money to invest for him, and I 10x'd it in a year. And, I thought, all right, this is an easy way to make, but that was when you could just pretty much, throw a dart and put every stock on the board, throw a dart at it, and likely it's going to do well at that time.
Right.
And so I did really, really well.
And you thought you were good.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the best.
If
I could do this with this amount, imagine if I had this amount. So I just remember going through that, and then what happened? The whole thing just came crashing down, and there were no trader jobs. So that's how I got into the mortgage business, actually, because I was graduated right while that was happening. And got recruited, to do this. So 22 years later, here I still am.
That's you and I got in the business around the same time, and I was also in the .coms. And it's funny, like the people who were investing, doing that day trading down there, they thought they were really good, right?
Right.
It was just like the realtors who were killing it in 2005, 2006, and the beginning of 2007. Like, I'm the best realtor there is. And then all of a sudden, like the market crashed, and like, oh, okay,
right, back to reality.
Okay, maybe I'm not that good.
Yeah. Well, and there are some indicators with the stock market, at least right now. I mean, we keep just seeing it go up and up and up, and there's no end in sight. And, finally this week I've seen a couple days in a row where, these bond yields are troublesome. These higher bond yields, the market wasn't expecting that after a Fed rate cut. So, you're starting to see maybe some cracks in the armor in the equity markets as well, although they've still performed really, really well, over the last couple of years. So lots of money has been made in the stock market.
Yeah.
But is that now coming to an end where maybe the markets aren't going to be as great now going forward because of the huge deficits, the government spending, the inflation that's wreaked havoc? How much longer can all of this continue without a little bit of a correction? So I think that's kind of what the the outlook is for me, at least. Now, there are people that will say absolutely not. There's no way. NVIDIA is the best company on the face of the earth. Not to toot them or anything.
Right.
They're making money hand over fist, and AI is the new thing. So obviously there's a lot of people that would disagree with what I'm saying, but it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out here with the election and after the election, and the debt's going to have to be addressed at some point, and that's not going to be fun for anyone.
And I guess you could argue that inflation's good for debt, right? Because you're paying it off with dollars that are worth less.
Yeah.
Same reason they tell you that inflation is good if you own an asset. If you own airplanes, yachts, if you have debt
right
during inflation, you're sitting pretty because you got the luxury of the asset, and then you're paying it with dollars that are worthless. Now you've got to make sure you're able to recoup and generate revenue to support those.
That's
that
it
lifestyle.
right there.
That's the hard part, right?
That's the hard part, right?
But for young guys getting in, young guys and girls getting into housing right now, young kids, 20 years old, 18 years old. We were talking about this outside with Matt out there. Is 20 years ago making that decision to buy. And then seeing and, buying what you could afford instead of buying what they tell you could afford. And that slow and steady wins the race mentality, which, has security built into it.
Right.
Whereas, people who stretched it and bought the fancy cars.
Yeah.
Those are the ones first to face foreclosure and short sales.
Sure. And if you're doing it prudently and you're buying what you can afford, let's face it, you have to pay to live somewhere, right? Very few of us get to live for free somewhere. So with the rent, you have to weigh your options with the rent costs, and in a lot of areas, it's still cheaper, even with the higher prices of homes and the higher interest rates. Rents have gone up, and it's still, if not the same, cheaper to purchase. And over time, I think it's the people that are trying to time the market. And I had a customer that's, sold his house 2 years ago because it was the top of the market. And he's been renting ever since. It's
killed.
Like getting killed. Absolutely.
Loss of equity and loss of that monthly payment.
And he keeps saying, I'm going to wait. It's, it's going to come down. And well, it hasn't yet. And, again, and it's all supply and demand, right? So it's like, if people aren't selling their houses because they got super low interest rates and they don't want to leave, there's very limited inventory. It's supply and demand. There's more buyers than there are sellers still.
Right.
And
even though it's only 2 buyers and 0 sellers.
It's still more, right?
It's still more.
And that's why, like you said, on your listings, your recent listings, you had 80 showings on 3 listings, and
yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, these were properties that needed rehab work, and and that's what the people really hurting in these markets where inventory is tight are the rehabbers.
Yeah,
there's very little inventory. We see investors spending top dollar on these properties just to get them.
Right,
they need the projects.
Yeah.
They need to be able to keep their people working through the winter.
Right,
so they are desperate to get these properties. So if you've got a house that's like in shambles, falling apart, best time to sell it in the world.
Yeah.
Right now.
Someone's going to come in there and they're going to, fix it up and, put it on the market while the inventory is still tight, and their sweat equity will reap them a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, kind of join in here. Do you see any, does your business ebb and flow with any real estate market conditions?
It does in some respects. As we see people buying more, than the enhancements to those properties follows. So when people are holding tight, you see a little bit of both. You see people buying houses and then doing the immediate improvement. We also see as real estate slows down, people are saying, we're going to say, so what can we do to improve where we're at?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of both. It's that you talked about the rehab. When somebody buys a home, they do the immediate rehab. But we do see a lot of people saying, no, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
And what can we do to make it our place or last a little bit longer?
Or change of scenery.
Exactly.
Without changing your location.
And nothing highlighted that more than COVID. Do you remember when you were stuck at home for a year? You'd go to Menards and Home Depot and the shelves were empty because obviously there was supply chain stuff too, but everybody was fixing up their house. Everybody was making it nicer. And I think that showed that.
One of the things that I always found comical is during COVID, we have a lot of townhome communities we care for, multifamily communities, is prior to COVID, we would point out, hey, you have a dead bush over here and maybe we should replace it. Fall on deaf ears for 3 years. COVID hits and it's all of a sudden, I have a dead bush over here. I've been telling you that for 3 years.
But now they're home and they see it.
Now you've noticed
it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One thing Sly you talked about with purchasing and so forth and this new younger generation is I owned a home during that crash, and when I sold that home, I took a hit.
Yeah.
About a $20,000 hit when I sold it from what my purchase price was. And so many people are like, oh my goodness, that's horrible. It's terrible. Yes, we all purchase, so we have that American dream of what our parents had, that we're going to get this equity and keep stepping up to larger houses. But when you talk about that rent, I reminded so many people in the years that I lived there, my cost of ownership was $166 a month. No, I didn't make money on it. It cost me $166 a month in that hit.
Yeah, how long did you hold it?
That's a heck of a lot cheaper than what I would have paid in rent.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes I think younger people need to look at is, what will it cost you? Even if you buy and it's short term,
right?
That if you sell for a little bit less than you paid for it, you still have more money in your pocket than if you rented.
And
not the ideal, right? We all want to make money when we sell our house and all that. But
sometimes
look at it that way too.
Sometimes the profit's in the buy. Is as you're kind of pointing out, the profit is in the buy, not the sell.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's a timing thing, right? But also, if you think about it too, because back then you could write off all of the mortgage interest and all of the taxes. Obviously, there's a cap now, but it probably didn't even cost you $166 a month if you factor in the tax savings you were, generating at the time. Things have changed now, so it's not that good anymore. But it's still, that is still a factor. That is still a factor, and there is some savings there. So if you're renting, guess what? You get no tax break at all. But if you own a primary residence, there is still talk to your accountant. I'm not a CPA. I'm not giving any kind of financial advice about that. But, generally, most people that own a primary residence, they still get a small break from that.
Matt, what would you say the biggest projects for individual homeowners? Where are people spending their money right now?
Right now, we're seeing a lot of patios, a lot of outdoor living spaces. People are looking to create outdoor living spaces, additional rooms, and that's also the design mentality is we want to be outside. We want this to be an extension of our family room. We want an eating space off of our kitchen.
Yeah.
How can we extend the home's footprint? There was a time when the garage was that space, if you will. Everybody hung out in the garage and
let's
put
man
a
cave.
TV out there, the man cave, which is still there. But now we're seeing it more elegant and elaborate out on the patio. Putting out, patio furniture like couches and so forth to really create
TVs.
An additional room, TVs, outdoor kitchens and so forth. And there's a lot of ways to do that without, you don't have to install granite countertops on your outdoor patio. You can attain the same look and feel by just being a little bit creative with the design process.
And that's something you guys do?
Yes, we do.
So this is landscaping, hardscaping, the whole thing. As soon as you walk out that door, you take everything and you say, okay, we'll design your driveways, your side pads, your front porches, your back porches, your decks, your waterfalls, Zen gardens, you name it.
The whole bit. And working within, the client's budget of what are they looking to do.
Okay, what can you do for about $37?
A rose bush, a knockout, one knockout,
a mum, one mum.
But it also, as we look at those outdoor spaces, a lot of pergolas, 3-season rooms you see. So do you want a 3-season room? That's not in the budget. Maybe we look to scale it back a little bit to a pergola. If that's nice, beautiful cedar pergola, if that's the issue, then we can start saying, okay, maybe we'll tweak here, tweak there, and then phasing it in. We got to have the base. So you want this, must have. Maybe we hold off on the landscape plantings until next year. So you've got your outdoor living space. Tell your friends and relatives we planted everything from seed. It's all coming in soon, But make sure that you're getting the groundwork in place so it's there when you want it. No different than a home. If somebody's looking to purchase real estate, is a home that has a basement without a basement. You can't put it in later. Maybe you need to buy the home that has the unfinished basement, because that's in your price point. Build on it later.
Right.
Same thing as outdoors. Get the patio and get the the foundation in place. Expand from there. So a long-term plan of where are you going, what's your goal, and what's your vision, and then you can work on it over the next few years.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea and a brilliant plan. I know a lot of our clients and a lot of our listeners want to do something, but they just don't know where to start. And they think, I've heard people, they spend $50, $60, $80, $100, $150,000 on landscape. We can't afford that. And no, maybe you can't, but maybe you can reduce that budget. Maybe you can plan it out over the next 10 years and something a little bit new every year. I really want to get in. I want tulips coming up in my yard in the beginning. I was at some kind of golf event, and they had like these centerpieces, tulips, and I took them because I thought they were cool, and I planted them. There was 5 of them. That was 10 years ago. They're still rising.
Wow.
Those 5 tulips, but they look so stupid because they're not designed in any way. They just kind of pop up around my flagpole, and there's nothing else. But I hear it's really difficult to make tulips last. But these stupid 5 centerpieces have lasted 10 years.
So tulips are a dicey one, because a lot of times we plant tulips in the same spot we're planting our begonias, our impatiens, all of those plants. So we plant our tulips in the fall. They come up in the spring. They look beautiful. And then after they die, we say, I'm going to put petunias over those, or begonias, and you plant your summer annual flowers on top of them, and you start watering your summer annual flowers all summer long, so they're growing big and flowering and looking gorgeous. What you're essentially doing is all that water is rotting the tulip bulb.
Yeah, they don't like water. I know that.
They don't. So your tulip bulbs, if you want to have that repeat blooming like Dick's getting out of his for 10 years, put them where you're not going to plant another flower. They want to dry out a bit during the season. What I do recommend to clients is going with daffodils. They're very naturalized. If you drive through Long Grove, for example, in the spring, all along the roadways, you see the yellow daffodils blooming. Those are a lot more tolerant, a little bit less sensitive compared to the tulip. If you're doing tulips in your main plant beds, figure about replanting of 50 to 80%. Add to them every year, because they do slowly slow down and die off. So keep adding to them.
Yeah, the one bad thing about tulips is I think they're gorgeous, right? I think they're beautiful. I think they make, because these are the tall stalk ones. But that first rain, they're gone. It's like they rise, you see them for about 2 days, and then rains. Okay, my tulips are dead. Okay, we'll be right back with our featured guest, Matt Menoni of Apex Landscaping, after these words.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back, Northwest Lake County. I'm your host, Dick Barr, here for Unlocking Lake County with Sly Marinca at the Sly Marinca team with Cross Country Mortgage.
Hello.
And our featured guest, Matt Menoni of Apex Landscaping.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so now what everyone's been waiting for, because I know our listeners loved you on the last show. I got so many requests for like, hey, what can I do really cheap? I'm like, well, nothing really, but we're always looking for good ideas, especially good economical ideas. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
So, Apex Landscaping, we were founded in 1991. We're a full landscape design, installation, maintenance firm. We also do snow plowing for commercial properties, townhome communities, HOAs. We started our roots in residential landscaping. And as we've grown, we've also expanded into the commercial townhome market, providing that same personalized service. So we meet with our clients one-on-one. We're family owned and operated, which in the Chicagoland area is becoming a little less common. A lot of national brands are moving into our area.
Is that right?
Yes.
Huh, interesting.
There's one very large corporation in our area that is actually traded on the New York Stock Exchange.
Really? Wow.
And if you asked me 25 years ago when I got in this business, would landscaping be traded on the New York Stock Exchange? I'd say you're absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But it is today.
Yeah.
So,
well, people
growing
are
business.
caring about a lot more people willing to pay money and a lot more dispensable income for people to pay to have this done. When I was a kid, we grew up in a very blue collar community, and no one had landscapers. You mowed your lawn. Period. End of story. And then I never would in a million years thought I would ever pay someone to mow my lawn. But I got to say it, I love doing it. It's because when I have to do it myself, the grass grows more than I'm willing to cut it.
Absolutely. And, the price of, we were talking a little bit outside about inflation and so forth, the price of everything else, a lawnmower, it's not as inexpensive as it used to be.
No.
The cost of fuel, so on and so forth. And I think the biggest thing now is the cost of time.
Yeah.
We all want to put a lot more focus on our family, spending time with one another. And that's what we provide for our clients, is giving them their time back, taking care of the properties, both on the install side and then the maintenance thereafter.
And it just looks nicer. I have a lawnmower, and I, for a long time, did it myself. And it just, when you hire someone, it just looks nicer. It's a professional, just like anything else.
Absolutely.
Do you also guys do all the you talked about kind of seasonal like Thanksgiving decorations and stuff. Do you guys also do like Christmas lights and displays?
We do not typically do holiday lights, but we do holiday displays. So a lot of the evergreen branches, ornamental berries in flower pots, containers, plant beds, all of that.
Is that something that could one day fit into your model, or it's just on a different spectrum for what you guys do?
A little bit different spectrum from what we do. There's some companies out there that are specialized in holiday lights.
Yeah. I've thought about it because, I'm at that age. I don't want to get on my ladder, climb 2 stories anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the reasons we stay a little bit out of the holiday lights is the liability side.
Yeah. You don't want to do it either.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So you're doing a lot of commercial stuff, but do you have a fair amount of residential clients?
We do have a lot of residential clients. And that was one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you guys today, especially, Dick, you mentioned the photos as we go into selling homes, and we're in the fall cleanup mode right now. Everybody this time of the year, it's beautiful outside. They want to get out in their yards, start doing things, and just make a big change. So they get out and start cleaning things up and cutting plants back in.
Right.
Because it feels good, right? We get out in our yard and, good day out there, hard day's work, and we see a transformation. With fall cleanup, as I want to emphasize, especially with pictures, is that people don't cut as many plants back. There's a lot of plants that we can leave up all winter long, providing winter interest, both, especially for your real estate pictures. We've got plants we talked about on the last time I was here, hydrangea.
Yeah.
Limelight hydrangea, Annabelle hydrangea. They've got those beautiful white flowers. We're now starting to see those dry. Don't cut them back.
Really?
Leave them on the plant, because a plant with a dried flower on it takes a much better real estate picture than a plant that's cut to the ground. So leave those on there, because also as we get into the winter, a light dusting of snow on top of your hydrangeas or your cone flowers looks very pretty.
Huh.
So leave them up. With your hydrangeas also, to take fresh cuttings, bring them in the house. Those dried plants will stay all winter long. So some nice little things you can do to keep the landscape looking good. All of your ornamental grasses, leave them standing.
Really?
Don't cut them back. Now, through the winter, depending on where they're at, if they're along a driveway, a roadway, where the snow might pound on them, they're going to fall over. They're going to get broken, snapped, and for those of us that are a little bit OCD, we might want to go out there and cut them in January, February, which is fine. But leaving them up, again, allows that interest. And the nice ornamental grasses this time of the year blowing in the wind looks much nicer than a barren plant bed.
Interesting. So let's talk about curb appeal, because obviously that's my specific interest, and that's all I care about. So what's okay? So we've talked about hydrangeas in the past. We've talked, and I think we got into a discussion about boxwoods. You're not a fan of them per se.
I do like boxwoods.
You do like
Very
boxwoods.
much so.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got a bunch of boxwoods. We're having a hard time keeping them all the same shape, and then they really get clobbered in the winter because they just kind of like mat them down really bad. Is there a point where it's time to change the boxwoods if you're not getting the right shape, or can they be saved?
We would have to specifically look at them, see what condition they're in, how they look, where they're at. Boxwoods can be trimmed in two ways: a very formal, tight fashion, which is going to make them very thick, tight in the middle. It's going to support a snow load better, and then also natural hand pruning. Typically, we see boxwoods, we want them in a mass planting, growing where they're touching each other, not trimmed into little balls and shapes, all individualized. Let them grow together. That'll also help support some of that snow load.
That's interesting.
So depending where they're at, it might just need to be moved out of a certain location, so you're not getting the snow falling on them, breaking them. Would also be a spot where bringing the boxwoods forward, put a plant like hydrangea behind it, because as the snow's pounding on it, the hydrangea is going to take it. Next year, it'll come back no problem. So siting your plants, right plant, right location. What's the environment? Not only sun exposure, but also what's it going to get physically? Along driveways, sidewalks, is there salt tolerance we need to look at?
Right.
Wind, snow. Maybe your neighbor doesn't drive their car so well and they're constantly running over something.
Or your wife.
Sly, I'm glad you said it. Not
Mine
me.
is listening. I got a question she wants me to ask, but anyways.
So yes, depending on those types of things, is we pick plants that are going to work well for the location and keep the maintenance down. While we're a maintenance company and that's what we do, we don't want to increase your maintenance costs.
Yeah.
Are there any colors besides green that can make it through the winter with any plants?
Not so much.
No.
Okay. Everything, your evergreen is what's going to make it through. There's some different variations and shades of green. Some darker greens in your rhododendrons and so forth. Some of your barberries might hold on to their leaves a little bit longer. So it's a little bit tough. What we're going to look for in winter interest is you can get into what do the stems of the plants look like. Some plants have like a red twig dogwood is going to be red. You can also get yellow twigs, so that's going to add a little bit of color and variation to the landscape.
You were talking about house colors when you were in the first hour. Do you use house color in your design when you're deciding which colors to bring into a landscape?
If we have the opportunity to work with the client on that, we can discuss those topics of how will it all tie together. We play off the color of the house.
Okay.
So if you've got a barn red house, for example, a typical barn red, we're not going to put a pinky winky hydrangea in front. That's a red flower. It's not going to pop. We're going to get white in front of that. Conversely, is in front of those gray homes we talked about, we want to get varying colors. Your pinks, reds, different colors to pop off of that. Yellows, so they contrast, so you can see the layers and dimensions in the landscaping.
So the kind of more stonish you get in the color, the more kind of pastel-y you're getting in your flower choices?
To a point, and it's also style of home. You know, if you've got a stone home that has a farm feel to it, we're going to get a lot of those grasses that has the wheat to it, and it's going to actually more match the stone, but play off of those colors. So it's all just like interior decorating, landscaping follows the same exterior as we follow the same design elements and styles.
Sly, do you put a lot of thought into your guys' landscaping?
We did when we bought our house, and now we kind of got it set.
So you do.
How we like it.
A nice rotation.
Yeah. We have a lot of annuals that come in, some rose bushes, things like that. Phlox. We've been having a horrible every year I have to replant these stupid phlox.
Okay.
That won't stay, but I think I know the problem, and I think it's because they're near rose bushes, and it's got to be something with the rose bush.
It would depend on how
combo.
close you're planting them. Are you doing garden phlox or woodland phlox also?
Creeping.
Low growing, tall?
Short. Creeping phlox.
So keep them away from your roses. Get them more to the front bed edge.
Okay.
Once they get established and get going, they should start growing into it.
Which this is my third year now replanting these flowers, and the ones that are further away seem to do better than the ones, because I wanted the whole thing to kind of fill in, but it's not. But I do have a question for you. Actually, my wife texted me to ask you about this. Okay. We had something happen that's never happened before. I started noticing in my front yard some dead spots in the grass, and I'm like, well, it hasn't been raining, so I started watering a ton, and turns out they're grubs.
Yes, sir.
We've never had that. We actually have a service that treats for that, and we still got them. And my whole street, I think, if I'm looking at everybody else's lawn, it seems like a lot of the neighbors are also experiencing that. What's up with this? Where do they come from?
So grubs come from the Japanese beetle.
Okay.
So and what happens is this year we've had an extremely moist season.
Mm-hmm.
Grubs prefer soft soil. And what they do is they come up out of the soil, it's a larva, and they're eating the roots of the grass. And then your grass will peel up like carpet.
Yep.
Kills it off. So you want to treat that with an insecticide.
Yep.
Now that you've been exposed to grubs, typically we don't recommend a preventative grub control if you don't know that you've had grubs. If you say, yeah, I've never had grubs, great, don't do a preventative.
Yeah.
Once discovered, you'll want to do a preventative for the next couple of years.
Yep.
Next year, when you do your spring preventative, you will still likely see some grub activity this time next year.
Okay.
Because it's not going to come in contact with every single grub. So now you have to start decreasing the population.
And from what I read, it's because there's like actual, it looks like animals are like digging in there to
you've probably got raccoons and skunks that are trying to dig into the soil to eat the insect because they let off a smell of the aroma, and they're trying to eat the bugs. So they're digging and rooting and trying to find them to dig them up. So immediately following, once you know you've got them, the swifter the treatment, the better. You want to stop that feeding so they don't continue to do damage. And so also the animals will stop digging up your yard.
Okay. And we've lived in our house for 10 years now, and we've never seen anything like this. And all of a sudden, where did this come from? And then our neighbors have it, our neighbor's neighbor. Like, it's kind of like...
Are you Typhoid Mary for grubs?
I don't think it started with us, because ours definitely doesn't look the worst. But
we can't blame one single homeowner. It's nobody's fault.
Right.
It's like, which of your classmates brought the lice?
Exactly.
We do want to, encourage all of your neighbors to treat because we want to decrease that population.
Sure.
So if your neighbor's got grubs, should you consider a preventative at that time?
I would go ahead and treat as well. Yes.
Yeah.
If Sly has grubs, his next door neighbor doesn't, but the next guy down does, the guy in the
middle's got them too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And, with that preventative, the analogy I like to give to people is even when you do a preventative, it's much like the flu shot. You still might get the flu. It shouldn't be as bad. So the grubs, same thing. You might see some grub activity next fall again, but it should be far less.
Okay.
So for the next 2 years, I would say go ahead and do that grub preventative. In year 3, that's when you say, okay, we haven't seen any in the fall seasons. Let's stop now.
Gotcha.
Because we never want to over-apply any products that we don't need to put down.
Gotcha.
We want to be responsible with that.
Last question. My tree choice.
Yes.
We planted a horse chestnut 3 years ago now, and it's doing fine, but this year all the leaves died really, really early. It's bare.
Probably around July, August?
Yeah.
So leaf scorch, it's not uncommon. It'll be just fine. Wait till spring. It should be.
I want to get rid of it and plant an autumn blaze maple.
No.
No? Okay. All right.
The only reason
my
I say
wife
like
does
that
it,
is,
but
horse chestnut's one of my personal favorite trees.
they are beautiful. Yes.
It's a flowering shade tree, which is absolutely great. Some of the black locusts are also flowering. Catalpa's flowering. They have some seed pod issues, but anytime you see a full shade tree in maturity flowering, is magnificent.
Yes.
The autumn blaze maple's great. It gives you fall color, which is gorgeous. But a flowering tree in the spring, nothing is more magnificent.
My wife literally just texted me, "No way." You're right. You're right.
So I know, Sly, we're talking a little bit about fall cleanup and leaving the hydrangeas up and our grasses and our coneflowers up. You had mentioned before the knockout roses, and one thing that we do hear a lot of people talking about with knockout roses is a lot of dieback. Oh, all my knockout roses died this year. My knockout roses keep dying. They keep dying. One thing I recommend to people is you can hill the roses in. You know, in the old days, we'd see our grandmas put the styrofoam cone over all their roses and all that. You can hill your roses, even knockouts, and that's taking a mound of mulch, 10 to 12 inches high, around the entire base of the plant. Late fall. Then come spring, spread the mulch out, and you have a freshly mulched bed for spring. The other thing I recommend is when you're doing your fall cleanup, do not aggressively prune those knockout roses back. Give them a little clipping, get them more manageable, because this time of the year, they're probably wild and overgrown, and you're going, they're everywhere. Give them a little clip back. Wait till spring. You're going to do your spring cleanup. Wait to cut them back until they start to leaf out. Then prune them where you want them, because that dieback won't go as deep into the stems that way.
Ah, interesting.
So little patience on it. We don't have to get everything done in our fall cleanup. That's why we have a spring cleanup.
Yeah.
So the right season, the right time for those types of things.
Awesome.
Is that the typical maintenance strategy you recommend? You do your fall cleanup, you do your spring cleanup before you start.
Yes.
When are you doing your for the lawns? When are you doing your seeding and your aeration? Are you doing fall?
So fall aeration is taking place right now, as well as fall overseeding.
Okay.
If your lawn is a sunny lawn, fall overseeding is a great time to do it. If you have a very shaded lawn, or you have a lot of dense trees, I recommend doing spring overseeding. Because right now in the fall, we've got a battle with the leaves. So the leaves are falling on top of the grass seed that's trying to grow. Now they're competing. You're trying to water it, but the leaves are in the way of the water. So if you've got a heavily wooded area you want to seed, do that in the spring before the leaf set. That lets the sun get in on it. So each site is a little bit specific, and that's why we go through it with our clients to say, here's best approach. You know, it's not one size fits all.
Okay. What about dethatching? Do you recommend that or
I do
not?
not.
You don't?
No.
Even
Most
if
lawns,
it looks like clogged and completely, thick.
some lawns need it. Most do not.
Okay.
It's an older school practice of power raking or dethatching, pulling up all that organic mass. We actually want some thatch on the turf because that actually creates a barrier so the moisture stays in. If we start pulling too much out, now we're also pulling apart the roots, the plant. Whereas aeration, when we plug those holes in, we're opening it up to let water in, oxygen in, and then the plugs that come out on the lawn decompose. And then that also helps the turf. So aeration every time over power raking or thatching.
Interesting. So when you will you guys do like as part of your routine, or can it be part of the routine, like doing soil samples to find out what the right method to do on this lawn to get it looking perfect is?
Absolutely. So, and depending on what the condition of the lawn is, it might be a single soil sample and they say, hey, everything's looking where it should be. Let's do these. If soil structure is in very poor shape, it may be 3 to 5 soil samples per season to test it, see what's going on, and get the soil corrected.
And when you talk about corrected, are you just talking about like pH levels?
It could be everything from pH levels, nitrogen, the fertilization. Do we have too much iron, not enough? So it'll vary depending on where it's at. And that actually gets sent out to a lab.
Oh, you do send that out?
Yes.
Okay. And now what about, is the presence or lack of clay an important factor?
The less clay, the better.
The less clay, the better.
Yes.
Okay.
So we want good topsoil, and that's part of the aeration process that helps break down that clay.
I know on our lawn we've got a pretty thick, dense clay, pretty close under the loam, and we used to, I forget, was it not moss? There was a product I was laying down in a barrel roller, and they said it was good because it would get down into the clays and break it up, and I forget what the product was called. Gypsum. No, it wasn't, and it wasn't mulch. I can't think of the term. We used to get it from Fairfield Materials. It was a top layer of. It was great for the grass. When I used like high concentrations of it instead of, more of this and less soil, the grass would just grow instantly, like within days. We were seeing
moss or compost.
Compost, thank you.
Okay.
It was a mushroom-based compost.
Yep.
And I wanted to get in this habit of doing this every year. But it was just so much work to lay enough down where it actually mattered. Is that recommended to do, the peat moss? Or the compost?
We don't do as much of that anymore as we used to.
Really?
Because you also want to watch that you're not adding too much nutrients to it. Some of those mushroom composts are really hot to the soil, and they're going to give an instant green up, start lushing, getting it real lush, where we want to work to rebuild the soil structure below the grade.
It's interesting because what we noticed where we did the compost in the winter, I was getting bright green into January on my grass. It wasn't yellowing out until like very, very late into the winter, which was kind of cool to see. But then we also noticed that I think we saw large outcrops of clover in the areas where we composted too.
And that could be coming in through the compost.
Okay.
Because that's an organic product. They're not sterilizing it, so whatever's in it, wherever it's coming from, the clover could be coming from that. If it's a manure-based compost, hard to say, it could be coming in through there as well.
Okay. I really want. I'm one of those guys that really want that perfect lawn.
Yeah,
I
same.
want the stripes. I want the lawn. I even thought about those types of lawnmowers that do kind of the golf course cut.
Yes.
So you can do real striping.
Yeah.
But I mean, talk about maintenance.
Yeah,
that's a lot of maintenance.
We have it. My yard used to be very, very perfect until a guy moved across the street from us, and now his is like that. It's like a golf course. He burned the whole thing and started from scratch, and however he planted it, I mean, it is literally like a golf course, and he puts the most beautiful designs in it, and he's got this weird looking fancy turf lawnmower, and now I envy his yard.
Sounds like he's very passionate.
He's out there with, pruning and he put in irrigation, so he's got it, watering every morning, and you could tell it's his passion, but it looks fantastic.
Well, I do want to ask Dick on his, we had talked a little bit about your burning bush and the size of them, so I wanted to remind you that upcoming here is going to be your dormant pruning for those. If you want to change the height of them, bring them down, wintertime, starting about December 1st, is where we can more aggressively prune a lot of shrubs. Structurally prune, reduce size, and even if they're starting to get old or overgrown, is reduction and rejuvenate.
That's interesting because literally yesterday I noticed they just started turning that bright red, that beautiful bright red that I love, but it's not going to last long. I've noticed the past several seasons, our color changes are going later in the fall, and the amount of time on the trees is shortened, and we go from green to brief color to just empty trees. Why is that?
If you look at the climate right now, it's 70 degrees out.
Right.
We should be in sweatshirts and hoodies typically.
Right.
So we're seeing that we're staying warmer longer, and then a quick transition to cold. So that's where you're seeing that change shorten and the quicker snap between the two seasons.
Is that bad for the trees?
It's not ideal, but it's not necessarily bad. They're evolving, so they're going through it as well.
Okay. Man, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, one of these days, I think I'm gonna have to call you, come over, and kind of take a look, and tell me how I can, I want to be like Sly's neighbor across the street.
Absolutely, be happy to come look at it. And
it's a lot of work.
Those questions, as we come out and provide professional consultation and coach them along. We partner with our clients.
Yeah. No, that's an awesome way and I think that's an awesome way. And it's much like, so do you do do you have programs where you don't talk about pricing? We can't talk about pricing, but do you have programs where you say, okay, I want this, so let's come up with a plan, and that's a monthly budget that you pay? Like, okay, so we take whatever that cost is, we say, okay, we're going to put you on a program similar to like if you were to hire a pest removal company. We say, okay, you're on a monthly, payment, and then we're going to come and, look for pests. Whereas you guys say, okay, here's my subscription fee, and then we're going to come out every week and do this, or every month, whatever.
Yep, absolutely. So we provide that on the turf healthcare level. So as you guys are talking about your lawns and wanting them to be perfect, is we provide a seasonal turf healthcare program or a full comprehensive maintenance program for your home. And then it is divided out over the monthly. And we do it on the maintenance side, that you get your spring cleanup, your fall cleanup, all of your weekly mowing, plant bed edging, weeding, all of that. Take all those, bundle it up into one cost, and divide it over the 8 months. That way you're not getting the expensive spring cleanup bill, and then in July your bill goes down, and then it goes back up in the fall. So it's payments are smoothed out for the entire season.
Okay. And then do you guys source all your own products, for instance, like the mulches and everything, or do you just kind of go and pick up where you can get?
We source it all locally.
You do?
And we do have a purchasing manager who checks all of it for quality. So any of the plant materials we use are sourced locally, so we're not shipping in from out west and so forth. So it's all native soils, which also provides a much better transplant rate, better quality. Those plants are
less chance for invasives out of various species too.
That and longer lasting. That pretty much anybody can get something to live for a year and so forth. We want plants that were born and raised here in Illinois, for lack of a better description, because they are going to handle our climate better, and the changes and so forth. Our soils. So when you're taking a plant out of a nursery in Lake County and planting it into your yard in Lake County, it's a lot better than taking it from a nursery in Kentucky soil and putting it into Lake County soil. So that's we talked about soil science on turf. The same goes for plants. We want to make sure that it's like soils. Otherwise, it's a shock to their system to go from a sandy soil to all clay.
Right. The like mine, which is all clay, clay and rock. It's hard to dig a hole in my yard. I know one time I had to redo my flagpole, and just getting because it's a 25-foot flagpole, so I had to go about 2.5, maybe 3 feet down so I can get my rock base down there. And oh my God, I was dying just trying to get through that clay. It's so hard to work with.
Well, Dick, I can teach you a real easy way to dig those holes in that clay and rock.
Really?
Absolutely. You pick up your phone and you just call Apex. That's
a great idea. That's what we always say. Call the professional.
Call the experts. Call the experts.
Yeah, that's awesome. We got to take a quick break. This will be a short one. And we'll be right back. Or not. Hold on. My tracker is not there. So we will be right back after these words.
I'm going on during this time. I feel there's no one to save me. This all and nothing really got away. You're driving me crazy. I need somebody to hear, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I'm going under, and this time I feel there's no one to turn to. This all and nothing way of loving, go be sleeping without you. Now I need somebody to know, somebody to hear, somebody to have, just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you help me escape. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not And I tend to close my eyes when it hurts. Sometimes I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in your soul till I come back around. For now the day bleeds into nightfall. You're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love, but now the day bleeds into nightfall. You're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. To let my guard down and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
I never thought it would happen with me and the girl from Clapham out on the windy common. That night I ain't forgotten when she dealt out the rations with some of the passions. I said, "You are a lady." Perhaps she said, "I may be." We moved into a basement with thoughts of our engagement. We stayed in by the telly, although the room was smelly. We spent our time just kissing. The real ones were missing, but love had got us hooked up, and all our time it took up. I got a job with Stanley. He said I'd come in handy. It started me on Monday, so I had a bath on Sunday. I worked 11 hours. I bought the girl some flowers. She said she'd seen a doctor, but nothing now could stop her. I worked all through the winter. The weather brought some bitter. I put away a tenner each winter, make her better. And when the time was ready, we had to sell the telly. The evenings by the fire with little kicks inside her. This morning at 4:50, I took her rather nifty down to an incubator. With 30 minutes later, she gave birth to a daughter. Within a year, a walker. She looked just like a mother, if there could be another. And now she's 2 years older. Her mother's with a soldier. She left me with my drinking, became a proper stinging. The devil came and took me from Barter Street to Bookie. No more nights by the telly, no more nights nappy smelling. Alone here in the kitchen, I feel there's something missing. I beg for some forgiveness, but begging's not my business. And she won't write a letter, though I always tell her. And so it's my assumption I'm really up the junction.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
St. Gilbert's Catholic.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-5... Don't cough after I turn your mics on. Welcome back. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, and I just saved you from a track of Justin Bieber. So you're welcome, Lake County. Here with Sly Marinca.
Hello.
And Matt Menoni of Apex Landscaping.
Hey there.
Okay. As I predicted, the reach of this show is so strong and so huge that Sly did his gloomy report of the economy, and then minutes later, markets are tanking. What's happening, Sly?
Yeah, I got a notification that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down. It was down over 500 points. It's down 492 points right now, and it's looks to be in part because of the Treasury yield surge that we were talking about. The markets don't like what's happening.
So that's interesting. I mean, well, let's put it into perspective. At least now, 500 points.
No big deal.
You know, when I was a kid, 500 points was a wow. That
no
was
big deal.
Run on the bank.
Just over 1% of the
right.
Dow Jones Industrial Average. So not the end of the world. But
it's what is it indicating? You know, and what does the slide look like?
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see. Do you think the Feds might trigger an early move based on what happens to the economy?
I think their hands are tied right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they already did the pivot and cut the rates. I think it's just going to delay further rate cuts and until things.
Do you think they
out.
might move? Because you said that you saw indications that inflation was coming in a little hot again, and with the jobs numbers being good, at least on paper right now.
Yeah.
Do you think they could come in and say, "Hey, emergency meeting, rate hike"?
That is not on my bingo card right now, but also seeing a rise in rates after a Fed rate cut of this magnitude was not on my bingo card either. So
right,
we're in unprecedented territory with the next move. Yeah, I mean, it is. We got a lot at stake with, like we were talking about with the election coming up and, monetary policy and, deficit spending and, things have got to change at some point here. And I think we're getting to that spot.
Sometimes we talk very technically, and I want just to kind of lay this out for anyone who hasn't hasn't been listening completely or doesn't understand some of the things that we're talking about, is the 1 month ago, almost 2 months ago now. It was beginning of September, right?
September 18th.
Okay, so about a month and a couple of weeks ago. The Feds dropped the rates by a half a point, like a whole half a point in one fell swoop, and that was we were on the air when they did that.
We literally were here.
Yeah, we were cheering. It was exciting. It was a great time. And then in response to that, the rates had kind of ticked down a hair and then shot up almost a full point within a month's time.
Yeah, and the disconnect is remember the Feds control short-term overnight interest rates. They don't control mortgage rates.
Right.
But the two typically kind of move in tandem and parallel.
Well, one anticipates the other.
Correct. And the departure of that is what the shock is right now. That, well, wait a second, the Fed cut the rates. Why are long-term rates going the opposite way? That's abnormal. That's not what we want to see. I could not have predicted this. Nobody could have predicted this. I know there were some that said that this could happen, but it's more normal for, all right, Fed cut rates, mortgage rates come down.
One of the things that markets don't like is lack of predictability.
Correct.
They like security. They like knowing what's going to happen. And I'm afraid it almost feels like people are so desperate that things are okay here that there's a little bit of micromanaging going on. They're trying to manipulate markets, manipulate numbers so they look good. and you kind of alluded to it in the first segment, is the timing of this happening before an election is what scares me the most.
Yeah.
Is all of this being done and putting the security of our financial backbone in jeopardy, all because of an election?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dick, and I don't know the answer. That's way above my pay grade. It is just very suspect that, with the jobs numbers that keep coming out, and this is after. Remember, they revised the jobs number downward over the last year,
Right, by over 1 million.
818,000.
Okay,
but they had previously revised every
Right.
month. So if you add it all up cumulatively, yeah. So yeah, it is just kind of suspect that, all of a sudden, listen, everybody wanted the Fed rate cut. It looked like, hey, inflation is cooling, that's under wraps now. And let's face it, the lower borrowing costs are, the better it is for you and I in general, right? Better it is for our clients, especially who are getting mortgages. So yeah, it's just kind of strange that they cut the rates and the markets just aren't buying it. They're saying, you know what? You kind of screwed the pooch on this one, and you shouldn't have cut the rates when you did. And
if they did it, they were going to get yelled at if they didn't.
Yeah.
And now they're getting yelled at that they did. But you know, and unfortunately, some of these things you can only look at with a rearview mirror. You can't,
of course.
They're so impossible to predict. And as we become more of a globalized society, it is so difficult to kind of to pinpoint when, where, how to do these things in a reliable, predictable way, which is scary in itself. But all that said, a lot of times we come off as kind of like, Chicken Little. Hey, the sky's falling, but that's not what we mean.
No, not at all.
For us, we're financial nerds, and we're
we just keep an eye on stuff.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
The end of the world is not near, and this too shall pass. But listen for the importance of knowing what's happening when, so you can help time your, especially when your decisions are based on financial sense, not necessarily. If you have to move, you have to move. Right? You got to move whenever you can.
Right.
In certain circumstances. But if you can time it for a better time, you can think about that. And these rates will come back down.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, I think this is short-lived. I mean, in general, when inflation is cooling and if the economy's not doing great, like we don't think it is, rates should be coming down. So I think it's just a temporary thing. We'll have to keep an eye on it. It's not all doom and gloom. There are still people, buying houses. There are still investments to be made. I mean, the markets move and people do well regardless in a lot of cases. So it's just a matter of, kind of knowing what's going on. That's all this is. No predictions.
And just like with the market, you're always better off on the long term.
Of course.
Because markets eventually will always go up. Well, we assume. I don't want to make that prediction be proven wrong. Markets will always go up. There will be dips and valleys and peaks and stuff. And the ones who are the most versed, because you can't time the market. You can't time the market better than the pros.
No.
The pros they know what they're doing. You don't. I don't. Sly doesn't. Matt, you probably don't either.
Don't.
So don't panic. Don't rush. Don't all that stuff. And this isn't financial advice. Talk to your professionals.
Talk to your financial planner. We're just telling you what we're seeing.
Exactly. So anyway, I missed an opportunity, Matt. I wanted to give you an opportunity, and sorry, that was breaking news. We had to
Absolutely.
I want to give an opportunity for you to to tell people if they wanted to call you, what's the best way to reach you?
They can reach us at 847-847-1505. So it's a pretty easy number, 847-847-1505.
Yeah, I thought you stuttered.
And then reaching out on our website, apexlandscaping.com. We have a tab for media, which has a lot of links to our do-it-yourself videos. So people that do want to do it
you got
themselves,
do-it-yourself stuff on there.
Absolutely.
That's
Check
brilliant.
it out. Have a go at it, and if things don't go well, then call us. So that's there for them to learn on their own. Sly did bring up something on break, which I think is good to talk about
absolutely.
Quick.
And so what I was saying is every spring, the edges of my driveway and my walk, the grass is brown. It's dead. And I used to blame it on my dog, thinking she's, maybe using the bathroom too close to the, whatever. And it takes a while for it to, come back. But The last year I kind of realized it's not that. It's I put salt on my driveway because I have elderly people that come to, grandparents and whatnot that come, and I don't want them to slip and crack their head on my driveway.
Right.
And Matt was telling me there's a solution so that doesn't happen as bad.
Really?
So
let's hear it.
So one thing you can do is apply gypsum to those edges of the driveway, the sidewalks, and that's going to help to neutralize it, so the effects will be a lot less. And going down nice and heavy with it, I was saying to Sly, you'll say 9 times out of 10, I tell clients, less is more. Don't put down too much fertilizer. Don't put down too much weed killer. Don't add more to it. Take it easy. Gypsum in for the salt, you can go heavy with.
Yeah.
So
really
go nice and strong on the borders, and that'll help neutralize it through the season.
Perfect.
When do you apply it? You apply it beginning of spring, after
Late
winter?
fall.
Late fall.
So
Oh, beforehand.
Put it down nice and heavy before we start salting. So even into December.
There you go. See, now next spring I'm not going to have the same problem because I'm going to dump a bunch of gypsum on my.
and you can't over gypsum a lawn?
You could, but it'd be very difficult.
Okay.
Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about here too is if you gentlemen will have me back again.
Oh yeah.
What I think would be a lot of fun is actually go out to one of your homes before the show, so then we can come back here and talk to the listeners about what we saw at your house instead of me answering Dick's questions. Well, I've got this one bush that looks like this. We can take an actual look at your homes and then discuss it in real time. What we saw, what your reaction was, or what your problems were, to help other people out. And
that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
And as much as I would love that, I'd be honest, I think people would learn more if we go to Sly's yard, because you've got a nice start. Even I know every plant by its one-word name. I know
Creeping phlox.
Right. I know maple.
Yeah.
And you knew all kinds of other words that preceded that.
Sly's wife has already texted him, blowing him up. When's he coming?
Yeah. She probably will.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And here's my idea, Matt. If you're game, you're welcome back. You're a great guest. You have great information. I would like to invite you to come back seasonally, so we can talk about spring, summer, fall, and I don't know if there's a winter effect that makes sense for the public, but if there is, we'll discuss that, and maybe we'll put that on. But at least 3 of the seasons, so we can kind of have that, because we do similar things with for instance, attorneys who do seasonal work as far as when the tax bills come out, that types of things. So I'd love to have you on as a recurring guest and kind of share your knowledge, share your information.
Absolutely.
We'd appreciate that.
That's ideal.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
And what the folks on the radio listening on the radio don't know is, Matt, you brought your son here, Matthew. Why don't you sit down and say hi? Sit in that seat right in front of mic 3. Put those headphones on, and let's do a quick introduction. I'd like to know a little bit about the family. We want the deep secrets too. Here, this is the headphones.
Let's not get too deep, but we are a family company, and so yes, Matthew is part of our team, handles a lot of our social media and so forth.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Matthew, what's it like working with your dad?
It's fun. It's a good time. I learn a lot.
Oh yeah. Do you get into any of the landscaping?
I used to. Now I'm more in the office. So I used to work in the field. Used to do a lot of the lawn care, a lot of the pesticide work, and spraying for grubs.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got to tell you, in any family-owned business, no matter what the level is working in the trenches is the most important thing to understand. You need to know everything that anyone of employ within your organization knows, because knowing that business, and that's what makes successful family businesses, span time. Because otherwise, when the kids don't know the business from the inside and out, and they just come in at a management level, it's never a good thing.
Nope.
And that's one of the things when Matthew started working with our team. He came on washing trucks as a summer job, and then slowly worked into, as he mentioned, doing some of the applications. I said to our team, you are to treat him absolutely differently. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. They said,
treat him like crap.
You stay on top of him. You treat him absolutely differently than anybody else. You get on him, you expect what I expect from him. And don't treat him like he's my son. And, he probably didn't hear that until a few years ago, but that's key, is so he had that work ethic.
The foundation.
I'm very proud of Matthew, and my other son Ethan, because they both.
Oh, he works with you too?
Ethan works in the wintertime, but they've established that work ethic because it's, what the rest of my team has helped, create.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, so how old are you, Matthew?
I'm 20.
You're 20. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so straight into the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as soon as your dad got past child labor laws, put you right to work.
Exactly.
Or before.
Maybe a little sooner. Matthew's also working on his pilot's license currently too.
Oh,
nice.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where do you do that?
Skill Aviation over in Waukegan.
In Waukegan. Yeah. Oh. So are you thinking, bigger style?
Bigger style.
Oh, so I'm thinking Campbell Airport here. Not too far from here. Jumping in a Cessna, maybe. But are you doing jets?
Oh my goodness, no, not yet.
No, okay.
Hopefully at some point, yeah.
Oh,
No,
really?
Flying a little Cessna, basically, yeah.
As a hobby, or you think you want to do it as a career? Are you going to do some prop
possibly a
dusting for
career.
your old man?
Yeah, possibly. We've talked about that. It'd be a good time.
That's really cool. I have my pilot's license.
Okay.
But because it's the same license as but just to fly drones.
Okay.
But they make us get a pilot's license to do drones commercially. And I'm one of the few real estate brokers in Lake County who can drone his own properties, and because I have a FAA pilot's license. It looks the same as every other pilot's license, and they make us learn weather patterns and cloud formations and all kinds of directional maps to do a drone that literally flies itself.
Well, I will give you a shameless plug on it, Dick, because I've seen some of your drone videos
They are
on
good.
listings. Pretty incredible.
Thanks, man. I
Absolutely
appreciate that.
amazing.
Pictures
It's
too.
Next level for someone selling their home. It really,
I appreciate
it's a game
that.
changer.
It is, and I'll be honest. Years. So I think my first drone was in 2014. Before we needed the license, I was one of the only ones doing it. And it made a difference as people were scrolling through their social media pages. Before video was the prominent media on social media. When people saw those aerial views, those perspectives from above, it would cause them to stop. So you would get, instead of 3-second views and swipe, you were getting full 30-second, 60-second, 90-second views because of those differences. Now people have become a little bit more. They don't stop as easily, so we're always trying to find different ways to get them to stop, and that's where the style and the design comes in. So it's good that you've got kind of a pro here doing your social media marketing, because obviously that makes a difference. It's all about catching eyes and capturing attention and making it last.
Absolutely.
Matthew, I want to thank you for coming in and joining us. Matthew's dad, we want to thank you for coming in and joining us. Sly, give a quick plug. How could they reach you if people want to get a hold of you?
847-722-1775 is my cell phone number. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Okay, fantastic. Want to thank everyone for joining us on another episode of Unlocking Lake County. We will be off the next 2 weeks. I will be working from my office south of the border for 2 weeks, and we'll be back in 3 weeks on our next episode. So everyone, have a great week and enjoy the fall.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the heart of our community, exploring the ins and outs of real estate and meeting the people who make Lake County truly remarkable. Remember, every property has a story, and every community member holds a key to unlocking our county's full potential. Don't miss out on discovering more hidden gems and expert insights. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon for another episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Until then, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep unlocking the possibilities that await you in Lake County. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.
Yeah.